Welcome to DJN TV and Tuesday Night with Ben Stowe. Now introducing the one and only Ben Stowe.
Yeah, baby! Yeah. Good evening and welcome to Tuesday Night here on DJN TV. Tuesday night's the favorite night of the week because, well...
Tacos!
Tacos? There's tacos. Are there tacos?
There was last Tuesday.
But not this Tuesday, so now you're just teasing us is what you're saying.
Yeah, well, yeah. Cinco de Mayo last Tuesday.
It was a great day to eat tacos, which we did. I think we actually did that too. Wow, it's kind of crazy that we actually did something appropriately. Man, unplanned, but yeah, we did it. So tonight, gang, we are going to go back in time. Did you get to see the thumbnail Jimmy made with the door?
You know, I did, and I smiled because a few days before that, I saw a thing on the internet, one of these great ways to pass time. What would you do, or what would you pick, or, what potato would you be, or whatever. Mm-hmm. And this was, what movie car would you take? If you could only have one, which one would you take? And the choices were like the Batmobile, the Ghostbusters car, I think the Mystery Machine from Scooby-Doo, General Lee, Kit from Knight Rider, and I was all set to pick Kit. I'll be honest. I'm like, that's a nerd car right there. That's what I want.
Oh yeah.
I'll be the Hoff. But then I saw the DeLorean, and I thought, wait a minute now. This is not just a DeLorean. This is the Back to the Future DeLorean, which means it's a time machine.
And it has
all these other cars have their features. Kit, the Batmobile, they've all got great things, but a time machine. And let's be honest, right now in May of 2020, who wouldn't want a time machine?
To bounce to some direction. So tonight we're going to be looking at old gear that because every once in a while in our shows, Ben has thrown out a product from years ago and he's talked about it a little bit. And I thought, let's do a show tonight where we kind of look back at some of the old gear that has been used in the entertainment industry over the years and have some fun with that. So Ben, have you had a chance to put together a list?
Yeah, I did put a few things together, and it's interesting because I thought about this. I thought about, why is John doing a show on old gear? And then I thought, well, I have been in the industry for almost 30 years, and to some people out there, that's a really long time. If you're one of our viewers that's like 16 or 17 years old, I'm older than dirt. I get that, But if you're Joe Martin, I'm still a rookie. I mean, he's told me so. Like 26 years. Oh, you're just figuring this out, and I probably am just figuring this out. So.
Thank you guys for being with us. We got a nice crowd coming in tonight on Facebook and on YouTube. I'm putting a link into the chat tonight. This is the link to go and get signed up into our DJN TV Insider area that has the training videos. It's out at djntvtraining.com. That's where you'll see the videos. But the link I put in has the codes and such in, so you can go and join for free right now and take advantage of this time down to go and learn. There's a lot of great videos there. We'll be adding some more starting next week on our How to Get Started DJing series that's going to be starting next week and going for 10 weeks. Jump out there, sign up, be part of that. It doesn't cost you a dime to go and learn and grow and build your business and be ready to go for when this whole thing goes away. Okay, let's jump into...
Put it in your head. Go put it in your head. Exactly. Get on DJN TV and put it in your head.
Learn
yeah, it's interesting because I've got my protest beard going on. I just decided if I was be home, I'm not going to shave. And I don't know, I might keep it. I'm sort of up in the air about it. Then again, I might wake up in the middle of the night one night and it might be shaved off. So, and not by me. You could just probably guess who else. Yeah, that would be my wife.
That would be a tough one because you've got a spunky young lady that's your daughter that would possibly.
Well, yeah, that's true.
Your wife would probably do a complete job. Your daughter would do.
Yes. I'd probably get something else. How do you get a beard
mohawk, Ben? I just go to sleep in the next.
About the spunky young lady, as you mentioned, about my daughter, I'll cover that in a second. But first, I'll just finish this thought by saying that it's good that I've left this because it shows the gray. So it shows that I'm qualified to talk about these old pieces of gear.
There is that.
And in that spirit, most of the gear that I featured is gear that I have worked with. So it's within my lifetime, with one exception, one very notable exception, which I'm actually pretty excited about. You'll know why in a bit. But I got to say this, for the permanent record, for all of history, about my youngest daughter, which of course you have come to know and love her from various shows, the baking episode, and then of course recently the delivery person who brought my ice cream and then called me Karen.
Charged you for it and then called
But you know, obviously I love her. She's my daughter. I think the world of her. But we come from really different places, acoustically speaking, because I do sound professionally, so I hear everything. Even with my, you know, aging and somewhat battered ears, I still pick up on little sounds because that's part of my job. She is significantly hearing impaired and wears hearing aids on, you know, regularly. So she was trying to sneak into our room the other night. And it was shortly after my wife and I had, you know, gone to bed, turned off the lights, whatever. We weren't quite asleep. And my youngest daughter was trying to sneak into our room. I think it's because my wife had taken a piece of electronics away. And I got to tell you, I'm sure to her, she is super stealthy. Maybe because she doesn't hear how loud she is. And she's not that loud, you know. But I mean, finally I got to the point where she would get within 10 feet of the door and I would say, I hear you, go back to bed. You know, how can you hear me? Just go back to bed. So yeah, we're really coming from different places there, you know, and I finally had to have that talk with her the next day. And I said, look, you ought to understand, any sound that doesn't belong just goes off in my head. You know, if I'm on stage and it's a sound that doesn't belong on whatever it is that isn't in context, like my brain is sort of predisposed to raise an alert to say that doesn't belong here. Mm-hmm. And you going down the hall at midnight doesn't belong there.
Yes. We refer to that as a dad hearing, because we'll be in bed there and you just kind of, and all of a sudden there will be a noise and it's like, Lori, did you hear that? No, what? I'll be back. And then you go downstairs and the dog, you know, on the other side of the house yacked or something stupid like that. And it's like, yep, I heard it.
Yep, totally.
And yet Lori can be like in the kitchen and she can say something and I can't hear a darn, you know, what did you say? I didn't hear it.
That's husband hearing. There's a difference between dad hearing and husband hearing.
I think there must be. I mean, it's not even intentional. It's like, yeah.
Well, we've had this conversation on other shows about the difference between listening and hearing, you know. But
there might be a difference.
So let's jump into the old school before we get ourselves in deep trouble, because we probably have at least a week left of quarantine with the women that we love very, very much.
And to die now from them beating us to death with a spatula would be bad.
So I guess what I'm going to do, obviously I couldn't go to the shop and, mill around and see what of this gear I have. And I probably do have some of it. I know I have some of it actually laying around. So I'm just going to do a screen share and I'm going to show some, you know what, actually, I'm going to not do that because hang on. I got to hide these thumbnails or else I'm just going to give it all away.
Yeah. We got a lot of people guessing different things. You can draw a picture and share just part of the screen. If you go to advanced on share, you can just highlight the one area of the.
Yeah, hang on. Hold on. I didn't know that.
We got Crown, the old Crown amps that people are talking about, the rack mount mini disc. I actually have one of those, I think, in the back closet.
Let's just start old school. How about that?
There we are. The TDK.
Now, I had to find a royalty-free image of a cassette. Now, you'll notice the other picture I put in here is a pencil, and some of you probably don't get that, but some of you do. That is a cueing device.
Yes, the cueing.
That's how you cue a cassette.
Oh man, the number of times you had to do that.
Now, I'm going from memory, so there's a good chance I'll get this wrong, but I'm going to be within the ballpark. But I believe the cassette was invented in 1961. So think about that. It's 2020. Think about how long ago that was. In fact, the CD, I believe, was 81. So, which it's not in my list, by the way. I just skipped the CDs because people are still using them.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
It's phenomenal. So I tried to eliminate things that I felt the majority of people, or that even a fair number of people might still be using. So I tried to focus on things that were obsolete, with one notable exception, which is the one I'm excited about because the technology is still being used, albeit it's been improved.
So
Anyway,
for those of you out there and watching, when a ballpark, when was the last time you listened to a cassette tape? This was actually a discussion we had about 2 weeks ago. When was the last time that a person listened to a cassette tape?
for me, it's got to be 25 years, I think. I don't know. It's been a long time.
I think I had figured that about Ben Miller 5 years ago or so. I bought a camera lens for him, and he packaged it up. But to use for filler in the box to protect it, he stuffed the box full of cassette tapes, old cassette tapes, and he sent it up. So this has been an ongoing joke. You know, if you're going to be packaging something and you want to protect it, well, you use cassette tapes.
These cassettes.
But there was one cassette that he had in there that was a cassette single, and it had a version of a popular song that I'd never heard that version before. So I had to go and play the thing. So whatever it was, 5 years ago or 7 years ago. Crazy stuff. 15 years ago.
You know, cassettes in the auto reverse. Used to be able to put a cassette in and just fall asleep to it when I was in high school. And I mean, we're talking, of course, about things like In Excess Kick, Def Leppard Hysteria, Joshua Tree, you know, things that you know, now it's such a singles driven market. I don't know I guess I haven't even listened to an artist's complete album now to tell you if you could. I mean, that's on me. It's not on the artist. But I mean, back then you just did, you know? So, and of course there was the mixtape, but anyway, you know, which Guardians of the Galaxy, you know, that's a great soundtrack. And I love that because my son has suddenly discovered all these new old songs.
Oh, certainly.
And he has it on vinyl, which is pretty cool. I think.
Nice.
His a good friend has got him for his birthday. All right, let's see if I can move on to the next item. No, I didn't want to do that. Come on, there we go.
The mini
disc. You know what? I gotta say, these were phenomenal because they were small. They had pretty good audio content. There was some, I think it was A-Track, A-T-R-A-C, that they used. There's some form of kind of a compression or an encoding that did strip a little bit of the content, but by and large, it sounded pretty good. They were recordable, and they didn't skip.
Yes.
So the players had a buffer in there so that they didn't skip. Anyway. I remember back in my days, and I know a lot of DJs can relate, where there was a couple of venues, VFW Hall and whatnot, where you could feel the floor move. You could actually feel the floor move. And I remember resorting to desperate things because the rack mount CD players would not keep playing in this venue when you played things like, you know, Jump Around by House of Pain or something, or back then Crisscross Jump, any song like that, you just knew you were doomed. I remember bringing Discmans and standing there holding the Discman so that it wouldn't skip. Just for that one venue, you know, obviously a Discman is not a great way to DJ, but it was just, how do I play this song and not have it skip?
Yeah.
Pillows and foam rubber. We tried it all anyway. You know, hard drives don't skip much. So I guess there's a plus for the modern way of doing it, which, you know, the MP3 is really old. We talked about, we talked about cassettes and we talked about CDs. I think the MP3 dates to late 90s, maybe early 2000s, maybe. I think it's late 90s even. So maybe even earlier than that. I feel like this is really more all Brian Red's area, isn't it? Yeah. Right.
Well,
so
he's the artist.
There for those who are looking for the rack mount mini disc player. There
it is. There is that. Goodness, I think I paid, I want to say $500 and some dollars. You know, it was like $550 from Best Buy when I bought the first one of the full units instead of just the little portable one.
You know, listen, this was interesting to me as I was going through and putting together this list. Gear has gotten so much better, and it is so much cheaper because we're talking about $500 in 1990 money. We're not talking about $500 now. You know, So, you are getting so much more bang for your buck right now. It is extraordinary what you can buy in terms of gear and its capabilities for the price you can get it at, which a good example is going to be coming.
Good.
This one made the list because everybody knows, and
Don't
anybody
touch
who's
it.
around,
Don't touch it with your skin.
everybody knows the 64514 lamp. I still have the number memorized. We used to sell thousands of them. That horseshoe pattern out on the dance floor in your effect lights.
Yep.
Of course, it was ridiculously hot. You put two of them into an effect light, and you get 600 watts of consumption, and you can only run the thing for 10 minutes before it bursts into flames. I also thought about remember the Lotus, the old horseshoe shaped lamp? I almost put that in here, but I thought, no, the 64514, it's the most ubiquitous.
There was so many lights that carried that or used that at one time.
For the super old school guys, Howie, I was thinking about putting in like a color organ. And, there are probably people who go, what is a color organ? Well, there's your homework for tonight. Just go look it up, because I decided to leave it out of the show, so you're going to have to go look it up. Most of us probably built one. I know Howie did. I know I did. And I'm sure you did. So pretty much all of us built our color organs.
Yeah, exactly. Back at that time, that was what you did.
Early part of life. In fact, I built one that had I just put receptacles. And of course, in order for this particular circuit to work, you had to have a resistive load, which was fine because that's what every light bulb was at the time. And I used Christmas lights on it, and it was hideous. And I think it actually showed up in the presentation I did for you. But
I do believe we saw that, yes.
a lot of that stuff was pretty hideous. So I thought this would be a good one for a couple reasons. Because one, Electro-Voice is a sponsor, and they make a great product. But I thought this was a really cool way to talk about innovation. I'm not sure how I feel about the horn placements on here. And I think today we probably would cringe a little bit maybe. But back then, this was a good sounding box and a substantial leap forward. And one of the reasons I picked this box is because one of the things that we have on it was really, really revolutionary once upon a time. If we look at this ad for the Eliminator, you can see that they talk about the horn. And you say, what's so special about a horn? Every speaker has a horn now, right?
Okay.
Well, not every, because Line Array doesn't.
Right. But I mean, yeah.
But I mean, a horn, every DJ speaker has a horn. So why would they be talking about a horn as an innovative idea? Because believe it or not, the horn was patented just a couple months before I was born. Now, it gets cooler than that. Here's one of the original patent drawings for EV's constant directivity horn. And here we have the actual patent, and you can see 1975 Electro-Voice. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Buchanan, Michigan.
Cool, how cool is this? I'm just going to scroll through this for a quick second. They're patenting the constant directivity horn. There you can see one of those drawings that we had a shot of earlier.
Mm-hmm.
This is a big deal. This is a big deal. This is a major leap forward in technology. Now, why is this so cool? This is so cool because one of the guys that worked on this was a guy who started at Electro-Voice in the 60s. So he'd been there for a little over a decade, was involved with the development of this. And not only is he still alive, he's long since retired, but not only is he still alive, he's a friend of mine. And occasionally even watches the show, I think. So I don't, he might watch this one if I tell him. But, how cool is that to reach out to a guy like this? And sometimes you forget. Sometimes we get so caught up in what we do now and how much better it is than what they did then that we forget that what they did then was better than what was done before that. And it was the framework and the groundwork, the foundation that we've built everything we have on today, that we owe that to these guys. We wouldn't have what we have and our self-righteous smugness if it weren't for them. So again, we look back at that original speaker, not original. Electro-Voice has been around since 1928, so that's not the original. But we look at that speaker and we say, "Oh, that thing's hideous." Yeah, but it got us to where we are, and it was a big leap forward once upon a time. So to me, that's really cool. I just love sitting down and having coffee with a guy like that. And it's one of the few times that I don't talk much. You know, you just soak it in because it's so cool.
Observing history, really, with that situation.
And he's such a humble guy too. I mean, a very accomplished engineer, was there for, most of my life. And before I was born, he was doing this literally 10 years before I was born. But he's a gracious and humble guy who kind of allows me to have my moment in the sun now too, which is pretty cool considering I don't really deserve it when I sit next to him. You know what I mean? Like, I've done a lot of great things. So what? I mean, how do you talk to a guy who's pioneering stuff, for Woodstock?
Yeah.
Good for me or whatever. All right. Moving on.
Interesting.
Yeah. So I just think that's super cool. That's why I wanted to put all this stuff in here and share this.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. Now let's see if I can get past the patent. May have to. Oh no. Let's see. All right, we'll hide that again then. Just pretend you didn't see that.
There we go.
So I thought, what goes next with the speaker?
Some old speaker wires there.
1/4-inch speaker cable. Now, some of you might say, but 1/4-inch is still being used. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. It's being used for a lot of things. Instrument cables, guitar cables, lots of different ways we can use 1/4-inch. There's TRS, there's TS. Certainly, it's one of the most ubiquitous connectors out there. But I really believe, and I'll tell you what, if you disagree with me, I'm going to change your mind tonight. It's time for the 1/4-inch speaker cable to go away. Its time was over 10 years ago. There are far better technologies, speak on, namely, and of course, we're talking about passive speakers. So I had to put this in there to say, no, the day of the 1/4-inch speaker cable need to go away. A couple reasons. One is confusion. Is it an instrument cable or is it a speaker cable? Does it have 18 gauge or 16 gauge or, or 12 gauge cable in it, or does it have 24 gauge cable in it? Big difference. All right. So it's got to go. Plus, not very much conductive area. Tiny little bit of that actually makes electrical contact inside there. For the modern high current speakers we have, it's got to go. It's time's over. Time's up.
It's been there, done that. And now it's done.
So following right along, now I could have used the Crown one, but I think I used this because it seems like everybody had one.
A CS series, yeah.
Oh, yeah, the old PVCS series. Now, this is not the first CS series. So, again, I kind of went with things that were in my timeline. There was a CS series that predated this. But first of all, this thing is ugly as heck. It looks like the design was kind of an afterthought. It's like, hey, we got the amp done. Oh, we forgot the connectors. Hang on, let's just stick something on the back.
Stick them right in the back and weld these arms on it. Okay, we're good.
Yeah, and it had, the crossover pods in it. And I tried to find one that wasn't too filthy. By the way, I don't know whose picture this is. I found it on the internet. So if it happens to be yours and you're watching, thanks for letting me use it. But anyway, you can see that, dirt gets in there and corrosion and rust. And it just, oh my gosh, it just seemed like such a terrible design, but it did a lot of gigs.
Oh, yeah.
A couple things we need to know about these amps. One, most commonly was a type of amp called Class AB. And that was largely due to a combination of efficiency and audio quality. You could have a very high audio quality amp that was very low efficiency, or vice versa. So they smashed A and B together and they got an AB, and it was still woefully inefficient, but it was not, as inefficient as it would have been. And it sounded okay. It sounded pretty good, actually. Some of them sounded really good. But you and I remember this because we live in cold climates. I know I was doing fall gigs and late fall gigs, outdoor, whatever. It's freezing cold. I would kind of huddle down by my amplifier to warm up.
Yep.
It was putting so much heat out. So much of that energy was wasted into heat and not into sound energy. And of course, we've got substantial improvements now with Class H and Class D and that sort of thing. So I had to put this in there, the old PVCS. PSCS, let me tell you this. You guys, you young kids who don't want to lift a 50-pound speaker, This amp was 53 pounds.
Mm-hmm. And we typically ran 2 of them because of subs and tops. Yeah.
So your amp rack was easily 200 pounds by the time you get all that stuff in there.
Yeah, because there was actually a period of time where we wanted to have a backup amp in there, so we put a third one in there. So you had 3 of those, then the crossover, then the
weight of the rack itself.
The rack itself, and then the power supply that was in there. And oh my goodness, it was such a horse.
We didn't need the gym, So.
Yeah, we just had to carry our speakers and our amplifiers, and we were good to go.
And every town has a venue that's got 3 flights of stairs, or you have to take the fire escape or something.
You've
right?
been there, done that. Park Rapids, yay.
The Bemidji Elks. Anyway. Bill Herman, this one's for you, buddy.
The old beacon.
The old beacon, and I mean the old beacon. Look, if they're still part of your show, Bill Herman. If it's the only light show you have,
Bill Herman.
That's totally cool. The beautiful thing about what we do is it's artistic, and I'm not judging, but this to me, this is the epitome of old school. If I had to find one thing that says old school DJ light, it was this or the mushroom. And since I think, well, let's just go with this.
We'll go with that.
But I'll tell you what, since I'm picking on Bill Herman right now, because he deserves it, but also because he's a good friend of ours, I'll pick on me a little bit too. I've got one of my own old school lights.
Yeah, there we are. Yep.
Oh yeah, about as unsafe as you can get. The old Hills Brothers
Coffee
light can.
Yeah.
That is vintage 1993 right there.
And at that time, that would have been cutting edge. Like, ooh, look at that. That's cool.
Nobody knew,
Yeah, for those of us at the time, because we were trying to find lights, because the fixtures to buy them at the local shop in St. Cloud, that was all we had at the time. Lights were like $60 a piece without any bulb in it, and
we didn't even have a local shop.
Yeah, so it was like, oh, that's a lot of. So when the clothing stores would, as they come and go, one of them had had the all fixtures. Come on in, make an offer. We went in, and all those hanging lights. It's like, yeah, can we buy those? Sure. So we bought all the brackets for their spotlights with the barn door sides, and that became our light show for a number of years.
That's awesome. Yeah, this was not the only questionable thing in my show either, I'll tell you that. But, I think in a lot of ways, it was a good thing that I grew up in a rural area that had no shop, and I grew up with no money. I think both of those things were significant contributors to my trajectory in this industry. I think if I could have readily gone in and afforded and bought gear, I doubt I would have pursued, the engineering side of it like I did. So necessity is the mother of invention. So I guess funny how things work out. Let's see. What do we got next here? Oh, yes.
Oh,
everybody had one. I had one of these. Everybody had one of these.
Yeah.
And I think, I didn't even think about this when I was putting it together, but I look at this now and I think about that Digico console that I run. And I've got 96 channels of input, 48 channels of output. I've got multi-band compressors. I've got dynamic EQs. I've got more horsepower by an exponential factor than they used to put men on the moon at my fingertips. I've got millions of times more audio processing power than the Beatles had when they played, every show, but even baseball stadiums. I've got millions of times more processing power than they used at Woodstock. Phenomenal what we get today,
But the question is does your board have the ability to pan the sound right and left? That was pretty high tech right there.
Not only can it do that, it can do mid-side. Again, I can do 5.1 encoding on a single fader. It's just ridiculous. If you're watching out there and you don't know who Digico is or what Digico does, do a little light reading, and it'll keep you up all night. And they're not the only one, of course. There's some other great console companies out there. They're I think, undoubtedly top of the heap. They probably share that with SSL, which is their sister company. So go figure. But even there, I mean, what you can get in a modern Allen and Heath, or like the D-Live series is phenomenal. Midas is Pro Series. So many great boards out there that just can do incredible things.
Mm-hmm.
And then, and this is what I started with. So, yeah.
Yeah, I remember that. That was a big thing back as we were in high school and kind of starting to think about the DJ thing. Is we'd go to the mall and head to Radio Shack and look and see what they had. That was such it was almost like a kid in a candy store, and it's like, ooh, should we just buy some stuff? We could buy some stuff and do dances.
And the old wooden strobe light box, remember that?
Oh yeah, yeah. Oh man, that was
good stuff.
That was a time.
I unfortunately had to sell this when I upgraded my mixing board back in the 90s. It served me for a year or two. And anyway, and you think about even a modern DJ controller, what it does, and the phenomenal control and musicality that's brought to you by software. I unfortunately had to sell my realistic board, and I found a friend of mine who was selling his, and I said, I'd like to buy it.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, it's the next best thing. It belonged to somebody I know, and it's got history to it. So I have that. I have his board now.
Nice.
In the original red cardboard box.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Mine was secondhand when I got it. It came from a pawn shop or something.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Let's see. Is that really all I have? It must be. Let me just double check my list here. A little romp down memory lane was short. That is the last item on my list.
Some good stuff there, though. And people have thrown in somebody mentioned the earthquake, the Cerwin Vega earthquake speakers, the sub.
Oh yeah,
those were the hottest thing. When would that have been? About the mid 90s?
Yeah, about the mid 90s.
Yeah. I remember one of my DJ friends back then, and it was on his promotional flyers. Now featuring the earthquake speakers for incredible bass or something like that. That was.
Oh, it's just fantastic to think about that trip down memory lane and to think of the lessons you learn. And I'll tell you one thing that I talk to people all the time about gear. Of course, that's part of my daily existence. And people will say to me all kinds of interesting things. They're interesting to me because they're unqualified. They'll say, well, I'm on a budget. You don't understand. I'm like, you don't even know what I know. Or they will say things, they'll think that maybe I'm like they've discovered the magic of a double 15 instead of a sub. And I'll say, no, it's not going to replace a sub, and I went through that same walk myself.
Yeah.
But sometimes people have to learn those things for themselves. So the things that I'm telling people now are learned, many of them the hard way, battle hardened over a nearly 30-year career.
Yeah, that's for sure.
It has been a lot of fun to go from this board, like I said, to, mixing live sound for festivals and crowds of, 10,000 plus. And in the midst of that whole journey are all these lessons. And those are lessons that I want to use to help you. I don't want you to have to make the same mistakes I did. I made them for you. On the other hand, I think there's a certain value in making the mistakes because there's a saying I really like that says, good decisions come from experience, most of which comes from bad decisions.
Yes, exactly. Experience comes from learning from bad decisions. That's for sure. Good stuff, Ben. Thank you for putting together a little walk down memory lane tonight. And thank you guys for being with us. We had, I think I saw about 75 people with us in the different rooms tonight, watching on different Facebook and YouTube tonight. If you guys would like to throw in some ideas for some upcoming shows, we're going to be continuing, of course, with the shows here through this spring and summertime until hopefully things get back at some point in time in the summer. So.
And clearly we're scraping the bottom of the barrel for ideas. So
we have to do, some weeks we do a more in depth, and then some weeks we have to do more. And I don't want to call it a fluff show, but you need to have just some mindless fun.
I think these shows are more fun for a lot of us, our viewers too. I mean, I like a good, rocket surgery dissertation as much as the next guy, but I think this is all stuff that really connects with all
Yeah.
of us.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, this was our career.
Oh yeah, everyone that saw that PV amplifier, they reach in for their back and it's like, oh yeah, I remember that one. Oh yeah.
I think I'm just going to bring up these patent drawings again for the horn. I think this is pretty
So
cool.
let's actually go back to the speaker, if you would, please. That EV speaker you showed.
Okie dokie.
If you can get back to that for us.
Yeah, I just got to hop over to the sidebar here and do that.
So today, PV can go electro-voice can go through and they can digitally kind of calculate how the throw of the horns will work and how all those different aspects works. Obviously, when these were created, that didn't exist. How would they have? Would they have just basically put the horns there with kind of they look good here?
Well,
how would they?
I think that's a bit unfair to the engineers, but I mean, they would certainly do a lot of trial and error, and you begin to learn things. But yeah, they didn't have the
Testing
calculations.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it was total guesswork, but I think there was some trial and error and some experimentation. And honestly, I would love to. I don't want to say his name in case he doesn't want me to, to say it. But it might be really fun to have this guy on a show.
That would be
say,
to know.
tell me about how you did do that.
Yeah, yeah.
Because I've heard some of those stories. Certainly, how they measured them has changed a lot. Before anechoic chambers, not that anechoic chambers didn't exist, but they were very prohibitive to build, very expensive and difficult. There is one loudspeaker manufacturer that even as of a decade ago basically has like a giant pole sticking out of their building, kind of like you'd see almost like in a hayloft, and they send a speaker out there on that, and then they have a gated microphone and they do their measurements outside in the open air. So it really shows you how lucky a company like electro-voice is to have that awesome anechoic chamber they have, where they can still take these real world measurements in a controlled environment, rain or shine, or snow, and build these complex computer models. But I think, these guys would be building prototypes and measuring it and then saying, well, how did that work? Let's try this instead. Is that better? Is that worse? And learning how these interactions. And again, all these things that I teach now, these technologies about how waves interact and that sort of thing, this was something that people had to discover and learn. So I just have to kind of defer that credit a little bit and say I get a lot of credit for teaching it, but I didn't invent it. You got guys like Fourier and people who really pioneered this, and we of course owe a lot of this to people like Voltaire and Ampere and guys like that, Tesla and Ohm. Without them, we wouldn't have the stuff that I just recite the things that I know that they have proven as law.
Yeah, that they were the founding fathers of those different thoughts and processes.
Yeah, and pretty cool to know one. Now he's not in the same class as Voltaire or Ampere or these guys, but to know a guy who, like I said, was pioneering modern PA during the time of Woodstock and the great coming of age of the rock show, of the stage show. That's pretty wild.
That would be, it would be fun to be able to get, because it would be neat to hear, because they had to do so much of this by trial and error and by ear.
Well, and it's phenomenal. I mean, just if you ever get a chance, watch the Beatles documentary 8 Days a Week, and you look at what they had available to them for monitoring technology as a band. And I mean, they basically didn't have anything, it just, again, I think about how spoiled our musicians are now and how spoiled I am. And in fact, I said as much to a guy who was kind of sort of shadowing me. He was kind of curious. And I said, yeah, we get fantastic PA, fantastic microphones, fantastic cables, ours, of course, direct boxes, every part of the signal chain, a mixing board with, enough power to send people to the moon 6 times over. And I said, so if it doesn't sound good, it's my fault.
Yeah, we really. All the tools needed are here.
That's right. There's nobody to blame but me now.
Well, neat stuff. Thank you, Ben. And thank you guys for being with us. Once again, go out to djntv.com/help if you have not joined the DJNTV Insider area. It's free to join right now. You can have free access to the training videos. If you want to check out what the training videos are, The direct link to that is djntvtraining.com. That's our membership site. That's the training site. That quick link, the djntv.com/help, that takes you to that website, but it puts the code in so you can get free access to everything. So use those two links. They're way at the top of the chat if you want to rewind and catch those up there. And then we can have you there to learn a little bit here during our downtime.
I have a thing I want to add. I'm sorry. I know this would have been better 5 minutes ago, but I want to point out, as we're sitting here looking at the speaker, also a picture I found on the internet. So again, apologies to whoever it is. But, you said, do they just kind of put them here and see how it sounds? But think about some of the advantages of a modern day speaker, how much better the speakers you can buy are today. For example, acoustic time alignment. If you look at the most recent releases from electro-voice, the way the horn lip kind of overlaps the bottom of the woofer, or the bottom of the horn overlaps the top of the woofer, so that they can have these acoustic centers as physically close to each other as possible, which means that even though they have incredibly complex processing and things that these guys back in this era in 1973 had no idea was going to exist, things like FIR processing, finite impulse response, and that sort of thing. Whenever you can fix something acoustically so you don't have to fix it electronically, it's going to be better. And it's just phenomenal when you take a modern speaker and put it up against a counterpart that would have cost 4 times what it did, 30 years ago. We're living in the modern golden age. Now, I hope there's another one. I hope it's just going to keep getting better, but boy, we got to feel pretty good about what we have right now.
Yeah, for sure. Smaller, better sounding in many cases, a lot lighter weight.
Oh yeah, louder, lighter. The line array that I use, I think one of my favorite comments, and I'm going to pick on him by name, but Joe Kaiser, who's the front of house guy for ZZ Top, comes in and we're providing PA for him, and he comes in and he looks up at the PA hangs, and this is an arena show, sold out arena show, and he goes, "Where's the rest of it?" And it was, of course, that series had just come out. It was brand new. And in fact, if you Google, there's an article where he was talking about how fantastic it was and how very impressed he was. But the boxes are getting smaller. They're getting lighter. That means less truck space, less weight, less fuel, all those things, all those benefits. And they hold their own with their counterparts that were, twice their size 20 years ago. And all that has precipitated to what DJs can buy today. Things like the Evolve are nothing short of pure magic, I think,
considering early DJing, we drug things around that size all the time.
I used to tote around a 120-pound speaker when I was DJing.
And that didn't have an amplifier in it.
No, that was passive. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Then we had the amp rec too, so. Crazy time. So once again, thank you guys for being with us. We'll be back here at the top of the hour. The show tonight, now, we'll just give you a little heads up. It's a game show we're doing tonight. We have got Brian Redd, Jay Brannon, and Nick Hahn competing tonight. I'm going to give them a song that was on my fictitious weddings request list. They have to come up with the best song to follow it up with and talk about why they're going to do it that way. And then we're going to roll the die of results to guess what they're going to do. And depending upon what number comes up, that's what the guests are going to be reacting to the song like. So then they have to adjust and pivot. That's tonight's show. Coming up here in about 15 minutes here at the top of the hour. So, Ben, thanks.
I was wrong. That speaker I used to carry was 139 pounds.
Jeez. At that time, that would have been almost bigger than you.
It still is.
Back in the day.
139 pounds. I had to look. I was curious. I wonder how heavy that speaker was. Yeah, 139 pounds.
Yeah, the young wrestling person had to struggle to get that up those 3
I wonder why my joints hurt now.
That's pretty obvious, I'm thinking. So, well, thank you guys once again for being with us, and we'll catch you in about 15. Good night, everybody.